Alright, so I thought it might as well talk about the new stuff on this channel as well. Usually I never talk about the new stuff, but I mean, I guess it's appropriate for this channel. It doesn't really matter, I don't care. Also, I predict that my takes are going to be stupid and somewhat dumb, so I also advise you to not take anything in this video seriously. Basically, I just want to talk about this damn new weapon that HoT has gotten. What I want to say about it is this basically perfectly encapsulates why playing on the English servers has such a big advantage. It's insane how much forecast knowledge we get, and it's such a good thing, actually. If you actually look at the Chinese forums, I always do this, by the way. I always look at the Chinese forums because it's extremely entertaining to me, their reaction. Typically, it's very salty and angry. In this case, I think it's actually fairly justified. MiHoYo just released Aponia, the new lightning DPS, right, that we're about to get. And then one update later, right, they will release DLC for HoT, which is like, come on, man. Like, you could have, if you had knowledge of that was coming, you might have skipped Aponia, right? So exactly why I think playing on the English servers has a huge advantage. Like, if we didn't know that knowledge, a lot of people who are now going to make the decision to skip Aponia because the sword is coming for HoT, you wouldn't have that knowledge if we were at the same speed of CN. But I also feel like there's like kind of an overreaction against this as well. People are acting as if Aponia is just like useless now. Again, like this is always like the stupidest reaction, because like obviously MiHoYo is not going to make Aponia useless in one patch. It's definitely going to be a typical S rank where she caps her bosses and no one else comes that close. I mean, certainly it'll be fine in Red Lotus, which is just a check if you have anything that's considered usable. At least for the top end, it's something that we have to wait and see if HoT even holds a candlestick to Aponia on her bosses, but I'm not leaving my hopes up. Personally, since this is another case of DLC, by the way, DLC, we're like referring to weapons like the Abyss Flower, which was given to Bright Knight Excelsis to give her an insane amount of strength, or the Might of Anna 2, which was given to Vermilion Knight. This was a lot older, by the way, so I'm not sure if many of you know about that one. But basically, this is another one of those cases where a new weapon is given out as a Divine Key, and it's a fucking OP as shit. It's like, most likely, this is going to be another OP as shit weapon. I mean, it gives damn time stop to HoT, which is like, obviously, everyone was already complaining about HoT not having time stop. Okay, now she has time stop, plus probably a fuck ton more damage. I always thought that time stop wasn't the biggest issue. I mean, it was a big issue for Abyss, so I guess in that aspect, yeah, it was a big problem. But her damage, in essence, was falling behind. So this is probably going to solve both of her issues. And she has 2 time stops now, both on the finisher and the dragon, which is insane, by the way. On top of this, she's getting a new boss in Abyss, the old RPC. Remember RPC? You have to be a pretty old man to know the RPC boss. That boss was trash, by the way, so they're probably reworking it. In fact, they did rework it. I'll mention this a little bit more later, but I want to talk a bit more about the Divine Key. So we know for sure she's going to be brought back for the bosses she's meant for, which is Bright Knight and the new RPC boss, which is coming. However, if we ignore the fact that this came directly after Aponia, I think this is the least offensive Divine Key. I think a big reason why Abyss Flower and even a 2 to some extent had a pretty negative sentiment is because Bright Knight was actually already meta when the Abyss Flower dropped. People don't know this, but the big reason why Bright Knight was considered not that strong of an S rank is because you had a lot of other options that you could have used. The Jizu boss at one point was super balanced, actually. While Bright Knight was considered the best option, you actually had the choice of using other characters to retain in the highest levels of Abyss. So if you skipped Bright Knight, you would have been able to compete and maintain with HOV or Night Squire. In my opinion, that is so much more healthy for the game. Of course, they drop Abyss Flower, and it's basically a middle finger to anyone who wants to use anything else other than Bright Knight. So it really was a win more weapon. On top of this, it was extremely OP, so it widened the gap by a huge amount. Of course, a bigger problem with those older Divine Keys is that both Bright Knight and Vermilion Knight were also very hard to obtain, at least back then. Compare this to the Divine Key, which is given to HoT, a Valkyrie who has 0 cap scores in Abyss. Like, it's so embarrassing that HoT cannot hold a single boss in Abyss. Like, it's not even close, by the way. Even at double S rank, Mobius at S0 just rolls her on a mech boss, the Bright Knight boss. So in this case, this is more of a revival of an old Valkyrie rather than a win more card. It helps that she's been super easy to get as well. You can get her through the dorm supply, you can get her through the battle pass. There's a lot of different ways you could have gotten HoT by now. There's a spending event as well that we had. So honestly, I'm pretty happy with this new weapon. I don't know about you guys. I want to play HoT again. I haven't done it in so long, at least in Abyss. And again, like I was saying, having this foresight is super helpful because at least for me, I was planning to get Aponia, but I've changed my mind. And yes, the deciding factor was this HoT weapon, sorry. Personally speaking, I've been very bored with Abyss recently. I played for coverage for about a year, which basically means I got every new Valkyrie at S0 with their gears for the past year. And honestly, I mean, it gets boring after a while. It basically means you can compete in every single Nirvana Abyss weather, but I mean, just barely, basically. I still think this is probably the best approach if you want to compete, but personally, I'm going to try something different, which is just to play Valkyries I like, and I think are meta as well. So we talk about this specific case, I've decided to skip Aponia because, first of all, I don't really like her playstyle very much. It seems a little bit boring to me. So I've opted to make HoT's rank up much higher. I've gotten her to double S1 after the ADV supply. Don't do this, by the way. It's kind of dumb and speculative. I'm just telling you guys what I'm doing just for fun. Obviously, since I don't have Silver Wing geared either, that means I don't really have a ranged character for the Asaka weather. Well, my Alicia is going to be triple S, and I'm farming Hersher of the Void to triple S as well. We'll see where things go with those two. I think it's more exhilarating for me to retain with Copium DPS characters. Basically, the way I learned this was when Mobius dropped, I had to resort to AE plus FR because I don't have Zenyi yet. I'll have it next update. But the AE FR team ended up being one of my favorite teams to play. So I'm hoping this is going to be a lot more fun for me than just playing the new shit as usual. So instead of pulling for Aponia's gears, I've decided it's going to be a better idea to get Eden's guns. I've said in the past that it's not really necessary to get her guns, but I actually think that MiHoYo is doing a 4D chess move here. The common consensus right now is that Eden is mainly for Aponia, but things can change. Things can definitely change. The thing is, even though there's a lot of videos where FR and Fischl are the main supports, there are plenty where Eden is used over FR, and in fact, it probably is just better. I'll talk about this more on the main channel when I finally release a video, which is coming up soon. Again, this is pretty speculative, but I'm just saying this is probably what I'm going to do is basically go for Eden's guns here, mainly because I need to spend enough to get that damn last Zenyi piece that I don't have. The other fairly interesting news that we got was the release of Griseo. Griseo is the SPA rank of the patch next version. Honestly, it was unsurprising that she would be a Valkyrie. We're probably going to expect Vilvi at some point. But the more interesting news is that she is actually a physical support, which was super unexpected, honestly. Physical, getting a support again, wow, we just had one, okay. Apparently her niche is going to be a bleeding, is what I'm guessing, because there is a bleeding weather that has been introduced in Abyss. I can't really say much about Griseo. It's very strange they chose to do another physical support. I'm guessing they wanted Carol to be more specialized towards shields. They also directly changed mechanics on the triple S Jizo so that bleed would work on the clone. They are 100% targeting Starlight Astrologos' niche. I'm pretty sure she's just going to replace SA in most teams. I feel like they're just targeting these old Valks. Like, for example, the RPC boss has a paralyzed trauma like gate, so you can't really use AE there at all. Mainly, I think this is okay if they make Shuijing farmable, which is probably going to happen, let's be real. In case you're wondering, guys, we are already seeing new cap scores with Griseo. Though it is V1, let's just wait and see what happens. Obviously, can't really judge anything from V1. Usually, though, MiHoYo's intentions have been extremely obvious to me, honestly. Can't really say much about her right now because there's like literally no information. But the weirdest thing about the bleeding weather is that all the enemies are actually bio. And actually there is a boss weather where the boss is also bio. Basically this is to pilot Griseo's launch, kind of how like the shield break weather happened with Carol. Now this doesn't actually mean very much. When Carol released, the shield breaking weather had mainly psychic enemies, and we didn't really get a new bio character at all, so no information from that at all. The only spicy speculation they can make from this is that Vilvi might be a new physical damage dealer. And in that case, she would be the mech type, which basically means there's negative stonks for BKE and TP. By the way, that's pure speculation. Please do not take it as if it's going to happen. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about the new stuff for once, just for fun, honestly. This definitely goes into the category of low effort videos that I would never release into the main channel. See you guys next time.